The galaxy stretched wide and silent, stars scattered like diamonds in the endless black. For centuries, the Threxians had ruled their part of the universe with pride, their fleets unmatched, their technology feared by all who saw it. They had conquered worlds, negotiated with distant civilizations, and considered themselves the cleverest species in existence. Yet there was one race they had never faced: humans. Whispers of humans had reached the Threxian High Council. Scouts, explorers, and travelers spoke of a species unlike any other. They are not weak, not simple, one report warned. Their strength is hidden behind compassion and unity. Do not approach their worlds lightly. The council laughed. Warnings? Fearmongers, said the commander of the fleet. How can a species that lives in small primitive clusters challenge us? Humans are nothing but insects on a small blue world. Pride filled the council chambers, drowning caution. No one wanted to admit that perhaps, just perhaps, the universe had something beyond their understanding. On Earth, humans did not boast or threaten. They simply watched the galaxy with careful eyes. Their sensors picked up a new fleet, enormous and gleaming, approaching the outer rim of the Sol system. They had seen similar fleets before, but something about this one carried arrogance, a confidence that bordered on recklessness. Earth's leaders gathered in the central command tower. Admiral Kale, an older man with eyes that had seen too many battles, studied the approaching fleet. They are coming, he said softly, more to himself than to anyone else. His voice carried a quiet strength, the kind that calmed those around him. They think they understand us. They have no idea. The message of warning had already been sent. Simple, clear, and without anger. You do not understand humanity. Turn back now. Enter our space and you will face consequences beyond your comprehension. On the Threxian flagship, the message blinked on their communication panels. Officers read it, scoffing one after another. Consequences? They threaten us with words? Pathetic, the Threxian commander barked. We will show them the power of logic, order, and strength. Peace is a weakness. Humanity is nothing but an experiment waiting to fail. The humans had no illusions about what might come. They knew the Threxians were technologically superior in some areas. They knew the enemy would not heed words alone. But humans had a different kind of power. One built not on fear but on courage, intelligence, and a willingness to act as one. Their fleets had grown quietly over the decades, hidden from the galaxy, ready for moments just like this. As the Threxians crossed the last light years, scouts reported the first glimpses of human warships orbiting the outer planets. Massive, sleek, and perfectly organized, they were nothing like the Threxians expected. Panic stirred in the hearts of some Threxian officers. How did they hide this? One asked, voice trembling. The human response was calm. Sensors detected every Threxian movement, every formation, every weak point. Humans did not panic. They did not overreact. They simply prepared, their minds steady, their hearts resolute. Across countless worlds, communications buzzed as ships and colonies readied themselves, and in that moment, the Threxians made their greatest miscalculation. They assumed humanity would fear them. They assumed words of warning were empty. They assumed pride would always triumph over preparation. But humans were different, and the universe was about to see what true humanity could do. The Threxian fleet entered the Sol system with confidence, their weapons gleaming like 1,000 suns. Their cruisers cut through space, each one bristling with energy cannons and shields stronger than anything the galaxy had seen. They expected chaos. They expected panic. They expected humans to surrender before a single shot was fired. Instead, the stars ahead glimmered with human warships, perfectly aligned in orbital formations around Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. Thousands of ships appeared in what should have been empty space, moving like a single living organism. The Threxians faltered, momentarily stunned. This was no primitive race. This was something else. From the human flagship Dauntless, Admiral Kale observed the Threxian formation. His eyes, steady and calm, reflected the countless stars beyond. They think they can scare us, he murmured. They have no idea who they are facing. The first message was sent clear and calm. You were warned. Leave now and no harm will come. Do not force our hand. The Threxian commander sitting in his grand bridge scoffed. Leave? These humans think words can stop us? Open fire. The Threxians launched a volley of plasma missiles toward the nearest human scouts. The explosions lit the void, but the humans were ready. Their ships moved with precision, deflecting attacks, absorbing damage, and countering with surgical strikes. One Threxian cruiser was disabled in minutes, its crew trapped in fear as the human weapons disabled its engines without harming a single life aboard. Panic rippled through the Threxian fleet. They had not prepared for this. Their intelligence had failed them. These humans were not just fighters. They were thinkers, strategists, and coordinators. Every move the Threxians made was anticipated, every weakness exploited. A young human pilot, barely 20, guided her fighter through the chaos of war. She could see the Threxian battleships through her viewport, massive and imposing, yet she felt no fear, only determination. "We can do this," she whispered to herself, voice steady despite the adrenaline pounding in her chest. For Earth, for everyone. The humans fought not just with weapons, but with heart. They moved to protect civilian colonies, shielding them from stray fire. They rescued stranded ships in the middle of battle, risking themselves for lives they had never met. The Threxians did not understand. How could a species be so compassionate and yet so deadly at the same time? Messages flashed across the Threxian bridge from shocked officers. "They are saving ships while fighting us," one yelled. How is this possible? It was the first time the Threxians questioned their own pride. Their arrogance had blinded them to the truth. Humans were not just fighters, they were guardians, innovators, and survivors. They did not just attack to destroy. They attacked to protect, to outsmart, and to survive together. From the Dauntless, Admiral Kale watched the Threxians falter. He did not celebrate. He did not boast. He only gave one order: keep them contained. Do not destroy unless necessary. Show them what humanity truly is. And so, the first encounter between humans and Threxians became more than a battle. It became a lesson, a revelation. The Threxians had come expecting weakness, but what they found was a unity and strength they had never imagined. Across the human fleet, messages of hope and courage were shared. From every ship, every colony, the same thought spread like wildfire. They would not give up, they would not run, and they would not be underestimated. Humanity had faced extinction before, and it had learned one truth above all. Together they were unstoppable. The Threxians had expected fear. Instead, they met calm strategy and courage. They had expected surrender. Instead, they met humanity at its finest. And in that realization, doubt crept into even the bravest Threxian hearts. The first contact was over, but the real battle had only begun. The void of space erupted with light and fire as the Threxians pressed their attack. Their massive cruisers glided forward, firing beams of energy that could shatter planets, confident that humans would crumble under the first assault. Yet the humans did not panic. They moved as one, their fleet flowing and shifting like a single living organism, each ship anticipating the next move before it happened. Admiral Kale watched from the Dauntless, his face calm, his hands steady on the controls. "Focus on containment, not destruction," he ordered. "Protect every colony. Keep our fleet alive. Show them we do not fight blindly." Human ships danced between explosions, dodging attacks that should have destroyed them. Smaller fighters weaved through the massive Threxian vessels, striking precise points that disabled weapons and engines. The Threxians were powerful, but humans were clever. Every move they made was calculated, every strike deliberate. On the front lines, a squadron of human pilots risked everything to shield civilian ships. One young pilot, Lyra, guided her fighter between two colliding Threxian cruisers, her heart racing, sweat beading on her forehead. Yet fear did not stop her. "I fight for those who cannot," she whispered, voice steady. Her weapon struck with pinpoint accuracy, disabling enemy engines and allowing trapped colonies to escape. The Threxians, confident and proud, began to falter. Their plans, their advanced technology, their experience, all meant nothing against humans who could predict, adapt, and act together in perfect harmony. Commanders shouted orders, but the humans seemed always one step ahead. "Why are they?" one Threxian officer began, then fell silent as his cruiser was immobilized. "How can they fight like this?" It was not just skill. It was heart. Humans fought not for conquest, not for glory, but for each other. For home. For every child sleeping on Earth and every colony struggling on distant worlds. Their unity was a shield no weapon could pierce, a force that no pride could match. On Earth, families watched the battle unfold through transmissions. Children clutched each other, and parents prayed. But amidst the fear, there was awe. Humanity was not just defending itself. It was showing the galaxy what true courage looked like. Admiral Kale contacted the fleet. "Every Threxian move is predictable because they underestimate us," he said. "Stay calm. Work together. They cannot match our will." The Threxians realized their arrogance had blinded them. Their first strike, meant to end the humans, had only awakened something far greater than themselves. Panic spread through their ranks. Miscommunication, doubt, and fear replaced confidence. Ships collided, formations broke, and once feared weapons were neutralized before they could fire. A young Threxian commander, watching his crew tremble, muttered, "We thought we were the greatest, but we were wrong." His words were lost in the chaos, drowned by the hum of human engines and the calm precision of human tactics. The humans did not celebrate. They did not revel in victory. Every move was precise, disciplined, and controlled. They fought with purpose and restraint, protecting what mattered while neutralizing threats. And yet, even in the midst of chaos, there was hope. A light that reached the hearts of even the terrified Threxian civilians, who began to question the war they had been forced into. By the end of the day, the Threxians had suffered heavy losses. Entire squadrons were disabled and retreat was impossible. The humans had not just fought them, they had taught them a lesson, one that pride alone could not withstand. The battle had begun, but it was already clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Their courage, intelligence, and unity were a force that no enemy could break. And in the dark, cold space between the stars, the Threxians began to understand their first terrible truth. They had made a grave mistake. The battle raged across the stars. But humans did not fight like the Threxians expected. Every strike was precise, every movement calculated, yet there was a gentleness beneath the chaos, a strength not built from cruelty or domination, but from care. As the Threxians pressed forward, humans began to broadcast messages, not of threats, but of mercy. Across the void, holographic transmissions reached every Threxian ship, showing images of children, families, and distant colonies. "Surrender, and your people will live. Fight, and only destruction awaits," the messages said. For the first time, doubt spread through the Threxian ranks. Soldiers who had trained for war, who had believed in the supremacy of their race, now paused. Their fingers trembled over control panels. Commanders barked orders, but some hesitated, unable to reconcile the humans' kindness with the overwhelming force they had witnessed. On the human side, pilots and crews risked their lives to protect Threxian civilians caught in crossfire. One young fighter pilot, Joran, maneuvered his ship between a Threxian cruiser and a collapsing asteroid. Sparks flew and alarms blared, yet he remained calm. "Hold steady," he whispered. "We save who we can. That is what humanity does." His words carried not pride but resolve, a quiet power that no weapon could match. Across the fleet, humans coordinated rescues while continuing to disable Threxian weapons. They did not seek to annihilate, they sought to end the threat without unnecessary loss of life. Every disabled ship, every captured soldier, was treated with fairness and care. The Threxians could not understand it. How could a species fight with such ferocity and yet show mercy at the same time? On one Threxian ship, a young officer watched the human actions through a viewport. He had grown up believing humans were weak, that compassion was a flaw. Yet here, in the midst of war, he saw strength he could not deny. Families and colonies were saved, ships were spared, and humans still pressed forward with unbroken determination. His heart, so conditioned by pride and conquest, began to doubt everything he had been taught. Admiral Kyle watched the situation from the Dauntless, calm as ever. "Strength is not only in weapons," he told his officers. "It is in courage, in unity, and in the will to protect. That is what makes us human." His words carried across the fleet, a mantra that guided every soldier and pilot. Humanity's resolve became a shield, uniting them as one. The Threxians' arrogance faltered. For the first time, they questioned themselves. Their weapons, though deadly, were countered by humans who fought not for hate but for life. Their tactics, though advanced, were outmatched by humans' adaptability, foresight, and unity. And most of all, their pride, so long their greatest weapon, was now their greatest weakness. In quiet moments, some Threxian civilians whispered among themselves, asking why humans would fight so fiercely yet spare so many. "Why do they care?" one asked. "Why not destroy us entirely?" The answer echoed through the void in the year form of every calculated move, every rescue, and every moment of mercy. Humanity's strength came from heart as much as mind. By the end of the day, the Threxian fleet had suffered significant losses, not only in ships but in morale. Confusion and fear replaced confidence. They had expected a war of fire and blood, yet found themselves confronted by a force they could neither crush nor understand. Humans were not just warriors. They were a force of nature, unstoppable because of their unity, intelligence, and compassion. And as the stars flickered with the remnants of battle, one truth became clear to both sides. Humanity's heart was a yaw, as powerful as any weapon, and underestimating it would be the galaxy's gravest mistake. The Threxian fleet had begun to falter. Pride, arrogance, and overconfidence that had carried them across the stars now crumbled in the face of humanity's unyielding unity. Every attack they launched was met with calculated defense. Every maneuver, intended to break human lines, was anticipated and countered. They were trapped in a web they could not see. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, his face calm as the fleet buzzed with activity. Sensors tracked every Threxian ship, every weapon, every weak point. "We do not need to destroy them all," he said. "We need to show them that resistance is pointless. Let them surrender and we save lives. Fight and they will see what humanity is capable of." The humans' plan was clear and precise. A strike squadron moved to disable the Threxian flagships' engines while smaller teams isolated the remaining cruisers, cutting off their escape. Human ships worked in perfect harmony, their movements fluid and decisive. Each Threxian attack was met with a counter, each strategy anticipated and nullified. On the flagship of the Threxians, fear had taken root. Officers whispered nervously, questioning every command. The great flagship, meant to be the symbol of invincibility, now trembled under the pressure of humanity's coordinated assault. The Threxian commander's face twisted with disbelief. How can they do this?" he growled. "They are supposed to be weak, primitive. This cannot be possible." Meanwhile, human pilots risked everything to protect civilian ships and vulnerable colonies caught in the crossfire. One fighter, piloted by Joran, weaved through explosions to escort a crippled transport to safety. He spoke into his comm, voice steady despite the chaos. "We protect life. That is our strength. Do not let fear control you." The Threxians' attacks became desperate. Their precision faltered, their formations collapsed, and their once mighty weapons were neutralized before they could even fire. Every failed strike only strengthened humanity's resolve. Every hesitation revealed the humans' discipline, courage, and strategic brilliance. Admiral Kale addressed the Threxian commander directly. "Your arrogance has brought you here," he said, voice calm but filled with quiet power. "You were warned. Surrender, and your people will live. Continue, and you will face total destruction." The commander looked out at the human fleet, at the countless ships that moved as one, at the pilots and crews who risked everything, yet showed mercy to their enemies. Pride and fear warred within him. He realized then the terrible truth. He had underestimated humanity. The race he had laughed at, the species he had called weak, was far stronger than he or anyone had imagined. One by one, Threxian ships began lowering their shields. Surrender spread through their ranks, and panic became acceptance. Their fleet was not destroyed, but it was contained. Humanity had proven their point, not through blind destruction, but through superior strategy, discipline, and unshakable resolve. In that moment, the turning point was clear. Humanity had not only survived the first major assault, they had demonstrated the full measure of their strength. The galaxy had begun to learn the truth. Humans were not to be trifled with. Their courage, intelligence, and unity made them a force unlike any other. Admiral Kale allowed himself a quiet nod. He did not celebrate, for he knew the battle was not yet fully over. But he also knew that the Threxians would never forget this day. They had seen humanity at its finest, fearless, disciplined, and merciful even in the midst of war. Across the human fleet, a single message echoed through the void. We fight not for hatred, but for life. This is humanity, remember it. And somewhere deep in the hearts of the Threxians, a seed of respect and fear was planted. They had come seeking conquest. Instead, they had encountered a force they could neither destroy nor fully understand. Humanity had turned the tide, and the galaxy would never again underestimate them. The battle had reached its peak, yet humanity's power was not only in weapons, it was in the strength of their hearts. Across the void, human ships moved with precision, but also with care. Every action was calculated to protect life, not merely destroy. Every strike had purpose, every rescue had meaning. On board the Dauntless, Admiral Kale observed the Threxians' reactions. Fear and disbelief mingled on their faces as they saw their mighty fleet falter, not just from human firepower, but from strategy and unity. They do not fight for conquest, Kale said softly to his officers. They fight for life. That is what makes humans unstoppable. Threxian commanders had begun to question everything. They spared our ships. They rescued our civilians, one muttered. They are not what we believed. Their arrogance, once unshakable, was replaced with confusion. How could a species so young and seemingly primitive combine strength, intelligence, and compassion in ways that defied understanding? On a disabled Threxian cruiser, civilians huddled together, frightened yet awed. They had watched humans risk everything to save lives, even those who were once their enemies. One young Threxian girl whispered to her mother, "Why do they care? Why do they save us?" Her mother could not answer, for the truth was visible in every human ship that passed safely by. Humans valued life itself, above pride, above power, above fear. Meanwhile, human pilots continued their careful advance. Joran led a squadron to isolate the last few active Threxian cruisers. They disabled weapons without killing crews, protected every life they could, and coordinated rescues for those stranded in the chaos of war. Each act, though small on its own, together formed a demonstration of humanity's greatest strength: unity in purpose, courage in adversity, and mercy even toward enemies. The Threxian commander of the flagship finally faced the truth. He had believed humans would panic, beg, or surrender. Instead, they fought with heart, protected the weak, and yet destroyed those who refused to yield. "We underestimated them," he admitted, voice trembling. "They are not to be challenged. We cannot break them. And worse, they are merciful even in their strength." Admiral Kale addressed the fleet and, through transmissions, the entire Threxian fleet. His words were calm, firm, and unforgettable. This war could have been avoided. You ignored warnings. You chose arrogance over reason. But humanity does not conquer for glory. We defend, we protect, we endure. Remember this lesson, for it is the truth of who we are. One by one, Threxian ships lowered their shields. Some crews wept quietly, overwhelmed by relief and awe. Others simply stared, unable to comprehend the strength they had faced. The humans did not mock them. They did not gloat. They only waited, disciplined and patient, showing mercy while proving their might. The galaxy beyond watched in silence. News of humanity's victory and restraint spread quickly, leaving other civilizations in shock. A new reputation for humans was forming, not of warmongers, not of conquerors, but of beings whose courage, intelligence, and heart could change the course of any battle. In the aftermath, Admiral Kale reflected quietly. "Strength alone is not enough," he said. "Power without purpose is meaningless. But when courage, unity, and mercy guide your actions, even the most advanced enemies can be humbled." The Threxians, once proud and confident, now carried a lesson that would echo for generations. Humanity had shown that true power was not just in weapons, but in mind, heart, and spirit. They had entered human space expecting conquest. Instead, they had encountered something far greater, a species that could fight like warriors, think like strategists, and act like guardians all at once. And somewhere in the hearts of the Threxians, a seed of respect and fear had been planted. The galaxy had learned, through bloodless victory and measured power, that humanity was not to be underestimated. Humanity had turned the battle into a lesson, and the lesson was clear. Pride against humans is always a mistake. The Threxian fleet, once proud and confident, now drifted in silence. Their weapons were quiet, their shields were down, and their commanders for the first time understood the truth about humans. They had entered human space expecting easy conquest, expecting fear, expecting obedience. Instead, they had met courage, unity, and mercy, the very essence of humanity itself. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching the stars reflect on the calm faces of his crew. They had won the battle, but they had not sought blood for glory. Every move had been deliberate, every strike measured, every rescue intentional. Humanity had shown the galaxy a power no weapon could match, the strength of heart and spirit. Across the Threxian ships, whispers spread among the surviving officers. "We were wrong," one admitted. "We misjudged them. We underestimated what humanity is." Another nodded slowly, staring out at the human fleet. "They fight for each other, not for pride. Their strength, it is something we cannot break." Human pilots continued their patrols, ensuring no ship was left stranded, no crew left in danger. Every action reinforced the lesson: humanity does not destroy for pleasure. They fight for life, for justice, for protection, and through that, they become unstoppable. The Threxians began retreating under strict supervision, their once mighty fleet humbled, but spared. They carried with them the weight of a lesson learned too late. Never underestimate the species that fights with both courage and compassion. Across the galaxy, stories spread of humans who had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, not just through power, but through unity, intelligence, and heart. Back on Earth, celebrations were quiet but heartfelt. Families embraced, tears of relief mingling with pride. Children watched the sky, imagining the courage of those who had protected their worlds. And somewhere in the silent stretches of space, humans reflected on what victory truly meant: survival, yes, but also the responsibility to use their strength wisely. Admiral Kale addressed the fleet one last time. "We did not fight to conquer. We fought to defend. We fought to show that unity, courage, and compassion are more powerful than any weapon. Let this day be remembered not for destruction, but for the spirit of humanity." His words echoed across the fleet, a mantra that would travel beyond this battle to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The Threxians, carrying their ships and their pride diminished, would remember this encounter for generations. They had believed themselves superior, only to learn that true superiority was not measured in firepower or fleet size, but in heart, in will, in the courage to act for others. The galaxy had witnessed the full measure of humanity, and no species would soon forget it. Years later, the galaxy spoke of that battle as a turning point. Humans became a symbol of hope and caution. Diplomats approached with respect. Scholars studied their strategies, and warriors learned that the human way combined intellect, bravery, and morality in ways unmatched in history. The species that once seemed small and primitive now stood as a beacon, a reminder that strength alone is not enough, and so, humanity's legacy spread across the stars, not through fear but through admiration. The Threxians had made their miscalculation, but the galaxy had learned a greater truth. Humanity could endure anything, protect everything, and rise beyond expectations. Admiral Kale looked up at the night sky from the Dauntless. The stars shimmered like 1,000 promises. He whispered almost to himself, "They thought they could break us, but they only showed the galaxy who we truly are." The fleet sailed onward, quiet but vigilant, a living testament to the spirit of humans. And in every system, every colony, and every heart that heard of that day, the story remained the same. Never underestimate humanity, for their strength is in mind, in courage, and above all, in heart the galaxy would never forget. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors but as legends,